Thank you so much for joining again as we continue our conversation with Aldo. In the first episode, we discussed some of the challenges Aldo faced while growing up and in school. Even then, though, I found it interesting that despite any differences, Aldo has had some of the same interests and experiences as a lot of us, even for me as a Jamaican. Despite all he has experienced, we see how he does not let that hold him down. Here is the rest of our conversation as we continue to discuss success for ourselves and our communities. Hope you enjoy.
I have something to say.
मुझे कुछ कहना है.
Mình phải nói cái gì?
J'ai quelque chose à dire.
Tengo algo que decir.
I have something to say.
This is Chad and Erica, and we have something to say.
Some friend of mine reached out to me. She's like, I have to ask you a question for my class. And I was like, what's up? She's like, how do you feel about like DACA and him and like, you know, the reports of saying you guys are rapists, this and that, criminals. And I was like, you want my honest opinion or you want me to hear you, like, tell you what you want to hear? She's like, I want your honest opinion. I was like, I honestly can say that part of me says like, oh, that's mad, we're not. Mm-hmm. But the other part of me says, what have we done to prove in ourselves otherwise? Mm-hmm. In a sense of like, I've seen a lot of my Hispanic Latino friends that have social securities and are living here, born here, and they don't go to school. So it's like, for me, it's more of like, how can we get ourselves in positions of power to where that view is shifted? Yeah. If you don't want people to think you're an alcoholic, don't have a beer in your hand every hour. You know, like, don't give them a reason to talk. Do something else with the action. Like also like I said, I'm hard-headed, so I feel like for me it's very simple to sit down and go to school, but like there's other people that have learning disabilities, and I get that, anxiety issues, mental, psychological, whatever. But I think that the most of the time it's like, even as our parents need to start realizing that it's no longer honorable for your 16-year-old kid to drive the best truck because he's working a full-time job at McDonald's. That's not honorable.
I have like a lot of like aunts and uncles who have kids that are like have all the opportunities in the world, but they're like, oh, he's working 2 full-time jobs, and he's saving up for a house, and it's like, what good is that gonna do for you? You're gonna always work 2 jobs just like your parents or like my parents or like this and that. And it's, I feel like it's like such a like with, I think Hispanics, we're taught to work with our hands, and like especially like our dads, like we're always just told like, I can do it, I have like the physical strength to work 2 jobs and stuff. But it's like, why would you want that for why come, like what your dad said, and like what my parents even tell me, like, why come to the United States to work a labor job when you can do that back in where you're comfortable and no one's judging you, no one's being like a racist.
You don't have to deal with all the things going on.
And I think it's like again, it's just like changing that perspective of what we value as a Hispanic community. Like for me, my dad's always been like, you know, like we can get a really, really nice car, but if that means I have to go and you have to go and work as well, like, then that's kind of, so like my point is saying is like, obviously we need people that are gonna do work with their hands, that need to be laborers like that. Like that's fine. I'm not saying that like everybody working at McDonald's is Hispanic, can't work there anymore. Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that in order for us to stop being viewed like that, we can't give them a reason to view us like that. And again, like if you're gonna be working at McDonald's, be the manager, be the branch leader, be something there. Don't just go there for a check, clock in, clock out, go back home. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's more of like, in order for the Hispanic community to have a different, like people on the outside to look differently, we also have to carry ourselves different. It's kind of like the whole like, act like you've been here before. Act like, walk the walk, talk the talk, like be here, and then the stereotypes kind of, they'll still be there.
People are still gonna. You can't.
Like for me, I feel like even for me, like I can be like, oh, this positive, and someone can be like, yeah, although, well, you've never experienced this and this in your life. And I was like, oh, well, that's very true. But it's like just having that idea of like, what success means for the Hispanic communities, the way your parents see money, the way the parents see the education. Because I've heard even like some Hispanics are like, why are you going to go to school? And then you're just going to end up working whatever. So I think in order for us to not have that stereotype again, it just goes back to like, don't give them the reason to say that type of thing.
Yeah, don't give them the ammunition.
It's a very controversial thing to say, though, I feel, especially for being Hispanic and undocumented. I feel like everyone expects everyone to have the same view, like, oh, the right, like, you know, like, the right sucks, and, like, they're racist, and they don't have, like, any say in this because they didn't experience this or this and that. And then, like, if you're Hispanic and you're, you know, supporting, like, the right, then you're a terrible person. You don't, but then again, it's like I understand all the reasons and the certain, like, challenges that people of color have to go through. So it's, I don't know, it's really hard because, like, I was raised with the same mentality as, like, you. Also, I was like, my mom would see, like, a homeless person and be like, I don't understand how somebody that's white and an American can be born here and have, like, all the, like, no obstacle. Why are they homeless? Like, well, your dad had to work 2 jobs when he came here and this and that. And, like, I don't know. It's, like, weird. I don't know. I have, like, sometimes I see it that way. Like, I'm like, okay, I get it. But, like, we don't know what challenges they had to go through.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think for me, I've been, again, this is, it could be, some people might say this is not a blessing, but for me it's a blessing where I have these people, like, my director at coaching, I have a couple other mentors who have been, like, I wouldn't say mean, but they've, like, kind of, like, sat me down and, like, we've been talking and they'll be like, you're ignorant for this. And they'll explain to me why. And I think the biggest thing is just being able, like, willing to listen. Like, listening to understand, not listening to respond. That's the biggest thing. Like, listen to what they're telling you. Don't listen just so you can give them a rebuttal.
Yeah.
So, that's been the biggest thing for me. It's just, like, you know, yeah, it's easy for me to say, yeah, that homeless guy should probably not be homeless because he could have worked. But it's, I don't know, like, is he a drug addict? Does he have problems with drugs? Is it psychological? Does he have a, you know, bipolar disorder or whatever, schizophrenia? Did something happen to his family? I mean, even something as, like, a heartbreak. Like, a heartbreak is chemical. Like, that can change your whole life. Like, if I get heartbroken and I stop going to work and I just fall into depression, like, I don't know. Like, that's so, I feel like that's so, unique for everybody.
And I feel like everyone has, like, their own exceptions. Like, every side has their own exceptions. Like, we say, oh, we don't know if he has, like, a mental health illness, but we only see certain mental health. Like, we only talk about, like, anxiety and depression, and now that's, like, a big thing now, like, seeing the side of, like, anxiety and depression and the effects that it can have on you. But then if somebody suffers from, like, I don't know, I feel like if somebody suffers from, like, ADHD or something like that, like, I'm just giving an example, not, like, you know, but, like, then it's like, oh, well, there's medication for that, and there's so many things that this person could have done, and, like, I don't know,
Well,
Things aren't that black.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just commenting. Things aren't that black and white.
Yeah.
Well, like, even for me, like, I get my brother, he has, like, ADHD, and so he sometimes he takes medication, and he would be like, I'd be like, dude, just sit down and read.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just can't. Like, you don't understand. And then it's like, instead of me just judging him and saying, dude, why can't you just read a book? It's like, okay, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Like, do you need me to close the windows? Do you need me to turn off my music? Do you need me to do something? How can I set you up for success? And I feel like that's the biggest thing, is just being empathetic to people's situations. Because I think, like, the big is, like, it's depression. Depression is a big one, you know, that you see a lot. But it's also, like, there's bipolar disorder, there's schizophrenia, there's, you know, everything.
And I think even if we see, like, we think of depression and anxiety, like, I even see it at my work. People that have, like, a lot of, like, FMLA for it and stuff like that. There are others complaining, like, that's, like, okay, I get up every morning and blah, blah, blah. And, like, and so I feel like I do that, too, because, like, I have, like, a really bad anxiety. I get like, annoyed. I'm like, well, I'm still going to work. I'm still doing this. Like, I have to do what I have to do in order to get paid every other week, or, you know, make money and pay this and pay my car or whatever. And, like, why do you get an exception? But it's like, not everyone went through the same stuff as I did. Not everyone has it like easier or
Yeah, or different people handle it in different ways too.
Yeah.
You know, so even though, you know, not to say that what you're going through might not be as hard or anything, but like, so it might be harder for somebody else to kind of control or deal with like what they're.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on just who you are as a person. Like, for some people, heartbreak might not be anything, and then for other people, heartbreak is the end of their world. Like, and they might manage it with, you know, alcohol, whatever, working out, whatever it is. But I mean, heartbreak is easy because I feel like to talk about because we've all experienced it and we've all dealt it a different way.
Yeah.
Like, you might have dealt it one way, I dealt it a different way, you dealt it a different way. Like, but that's like kind of the common language. Is like, it's hard to judge if you don't know everything. That's for me.
You know, I get that. And then the one thing with like, you know, with different communities, a lot of communities have their own stereotypes of just, you know, maybe not working hard or whatever the case may be. Like, I realize even like in today's day and age, like, you know, in 2020, you know, a lot of people have started to kind of perform, and, you know, people aren't necessarily looking to go hustle and make a quick dollar. Like, they're realizing like, I have to work on my credit. That's something I've kind of been seeing a lot of in
long term.
Yeah, like in just in people in general, like nowadays, you know. So I feel like people are still trying to just better themselves in the legitimate, you know, the traditional Caucasian way of, you know, doing things. But, you know, the unfortunate thing is people are still gonna judge them based on, you know, who they are or where they think they come from, how they, you know. So my advice would just be to do the best that you can ultimately, just in order to satisfy yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're not gonna please everybody, you know. You're gonna, people are still gonna not want you to be here or not want you to be in this program or think that you shouldn't have gotten this opportunity because of this, you know. But you take advantage of those opportunities that you have and just do your best, you know.
I think that there's with like being in 2020, everybody's like driven to like self what is it, like bettering yourself, like self-improvement, like self-development. That's what it's called, personal development. And I feel like that in itself is like it's like a cloud. It's like a cloud that covers people because everybody's anxious about it. Because everybody's like, I have to get better, I have to get better, I have to get better. Like, if I don't do this, I'm not getting better. That's anxiety. So there's a guy who I heard talking. He's Hispanic. He says he's not a personal development teacher, but he basically says like that same anxiety is what leads to your unhappiness. And have you ever read the book? It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
I've read a few pages.
Really popular. I read that, and it has the same meaning where it's like, the guy was saying is like, if you don't want to be anything, don't. Like, if you want to work at McDonald's, or if you want to work as a doctor, or if you want to work as a construction, and you are living a happy life, good for you. That's it. You've accomplished it. You're happy. Like,
that's my thing. But I'm like, I care too much of what others think. That's my problem. And then I am too anxious to please, because I feel like for like so long, I'm not going to make my parents happy until I get a degree and I have a job and show them like, yes, Mom, you can get a degree in media communications or something. And then like, I know after that there's going to be like a new thing. It's going to be like, okay, but now that I've like have done this for my parents, like, what am I going to do for me? Or like, what are my goals and stuff like that? And it's like, what if I'm just happy in my like current state? Like, I don't need to keep doing more if I don't want to.
The biggest thing is just like that same anxiety that makes that like, you have to get better. If you're not reading, you're not getting better. Or like, if you're scrolling your phone, you're not getting better. Or if you're not running, you're not getting, it's like, maybe I don't want to get better. I like being me. This is what I want to be, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to be the best performer. Like, you don't have to be the strongest person. You can be you, and that's fine. Like, I think he has a story where he was a singing teacher, and he said that there was these students that are like, he was explaining life and how life is funny, and he's like, there'd be students in here that like love music. They have the best CDs, they have the best records, they listen to it every day, they analyze it, they can read it, they can write it. He's like, but their voice just sucks. And they come in here every day and they work hard, but it sucks. And they're like, oh, I love music. I can't wait to be a famous musician. And he's like, and I have the job to tell them, you know what? Your voice sucks. You're never going to be it. And they're like, but I love music. It's my passion. It's my calling. He's like, well, that's your passion, your calling, but you're going to need to enjoy it because you're not going to be able to do it. And that's just life. And then there might be the other end where the person has the skills and talent, but they don't have the determination. So, like, if you don't want to be it, Don't be like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be anything.
I feel like lately, all just reading like a lot of self-help books and stuff like that, and just books in general. I feel like I'm always trying to like achieve this. Okay, I'm good now. I don't have anxiety. And then like I'll go through like, especially right now with the whole like pandemic, I'll go like with a whole week of being like so positive and so good, and then like I'll go like 3 or 4 days straight just crying and like having a mental breakdown, and then wanting to go back into it again, and like, okay, then I'm gonna start reading the books again, and always trying to achieve something that I'm trying to let others define for me. And it's like, no, that's not what this wellness or whatever, it's like what you want out of it, not what others think you should get out of it.
So I started reading a book. It's called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And
I'm writing all these down, by the way.
Yeah, I just keep hearing.
It's a book, and it talks about so I believe in like there's stoic, like it was detachment from your feelings, like feel your emotions, they're very real, but don't let them control you type of thing. Like that's how I think. And it's this book about this guy. It's a real competitor. He was in top gymnastics.
Yeah.
And he went to like he was like super unhappy with himself, but he was super successful. Like he was winning gold medals. He was top of the game. He was getting all the girls, whatever, jacked, muscular. But he was unhappy with his life, super unhappy. And one day he like goes to a gas station. The gas station attendant ends up being this old man. And in the book, it's Socrates. Do you know who Socrates is? The philosopher. And in this chapter I was reading, Socrates kind of puts him through a bunch of tests, like you can't eat meat for a week, you can't eat this, like fasting, you know, whatever, you can't have sex, you can't smoke, you can't do this, you can't do this. So he puts him through all these tests, and it's like 7 months go by, and Dan comes in, he's like, I passed all these tests, I did this, and Socrates lays back on his chair and pulls out a cigarette, and he lights it, and he starts smoking, and Dan goes like, what the heck, Socrates? You just told me smoking is bad. You told me not to drink alcohol. This and this and this. And Socrates is like, there's no such thing as a bad habit. There's only habits. What if you don't know? And then he says, the only reason a habit becomes bad is when you don't know why you're doing it. So in a sense, I am smoking, but I know that because I'm smoking, I'm running the risk of having cancer. I know that it's not healthy. I know that this and this and this and this. So when you make a decision, you have to know everything that's coming from that decision. And if you understand that and you're willing to accept that, then you're fine. So there's nothing, it's only bad when you don't know why you do it. So like if I come here and I drink alcohol, that's not a bad habit unless I don't know why I'm drinking. Am I drinking because I'm unhappy? Am I drinking because I'm sad? Am I drinking because I'm stressed? Find out why you're drinking. And then if you still feel like...
Essentially, that's going to make you want to either stop
or maybe you just enjoy beer.
Yeah.
Like that, so there's no bad habits. Like there's nothing that's considered bad. It's just, why are you doing it? Like for me, I, whether it's like nail biting or smoking, it's like, okay, you're doing it. Is it good or bad? It's only bad if you don't know why you're doing it. So he goes on to say, hey Dan, whenever you make a decision, there's a saying that goes, if you're gonna sit, sit. If you're gonna stand, stand. But don't wobble. So once you make the decision, make it with all your heart and be willing to accept everything you do, whether it's good things that come out of it, bad things that come out of it, and everything. So like, if I want to sit on my phone and scroll Instagram for an hour and a half, and I know why I'm doing it, whether it's educational, entertainment, and everything, why would I not want to do it? My brother's like super like very emotionally intelligent with how people react and stuff. Like he's only 17, but like it was me, but my buddy and my brother were working out, and my brother's like, we've been here for 5 hours. Like, when are we gonna go home? And I was like, dude, this is like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, all you do is go home and play video games all day. Like, what is that? Like, how does that make you better? And he replied to me like he shut me up. He was like, just because you don't have fun with it doesn't mean I don't love it. And if I love it and it makes me feel good, then I'm gonna do it. Okay, valid point. Go play video games. If that's what makes you feel better, do it. Like, I think that's like the understanding of like, know why you're doing things, and like you'll be fine.
Yeah. Like not knowing the reason behind it and doing it is where it becomes problematic, because then I feel like you're gonna wanna repeat it and you're gonna keep doing it. You know, and you're not really, especially if you're not really thinking about the reason you're doing it, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
It's so weird that you don't. I feel like you're so like calm about stuff, just like these type of issues.
calm. Like, what do you mean?
Like like you were telling your story and stuff, but like, wouldn't you want to do something because this is like affecting you too? That could have been you on the border, like crossing and like getting shot at and stuff like that. Like,
you know what? I mean, for me, I can relate just because I'm an asylum seeker actually, and for me, what you said a while ago about not wanting to like create a spotlight for yourself, like for me, I can relate to that just because, like back in Jamaica, you know, that in itself would not necessarily just affect me, but like my family that still lives there. So just not wanting to create that spotlight.
Yeah.
You know, about that.
Yeah.
I guess it's just like maybe just how we deal with it. You know, it's just how you gonna handle that kind of, you know. Basically, I mean that's for me at least.
But like you say that you don't even like really keep up with the news or like with the politics. I'm like, why?
Because I really think for me it's like you have to, and this is how I feel, like I see the world, like it's, and if you burden yourselves with the concerns of the world that you don't directly have control over, you live with this gray cloud over you every day.
But don't you think that you have some sort of control over
and I'm
it?
doing it. I got my college education. I have a full-time job.
I know,
so like,
but
these things are amounting to what I can do. Like how, for example, it's like you can't make a big impact unless you're somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make like a small impact. Like when the DACA first came out, like I was protesting in the streets in Chicago. Like I was part of a group of people, individuals that were like, it was a Hispanic group, and we were the ones protesting. So like I've been there and I've seen that and I've experienced it. I know those emotions, and I've also seen what it doesn't do. So it's like when you see both sides, you're like, which one am I the most comfortable doing? And I don't think you need to like be out there and be super aggressive about it, as long as you're, you know, putting in the work to better yourself. And then I think as you get better, like you just start touching people, and it's like contagious. Like, hey, this, and this, and like let's say someone comes up to me and is like, hey, you're a beaner, this and this and this. I understand why you think that. Now let me show you why I'm not. Type of thing. And then if I can convince one person, then I've already done more by sitting there yelling at a person. Because I think you change people by talking to them and conversing relationships. You don't change people by me yelling my opinions upon them so they yell at me back.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm not saying you need to go and like protest, but I think there are a lot of like movements or stuff like, I don't know, I feel like you're very inspirational. Like I was telling Chad, and I don't know, just doing other things to kind of tell your story. And
yeah, I don't know. I've never like because I saw it. I can't even remember his name anymore. It was when I was a freshman in college, and like we did like I was in OLAS. I saw the OLAS, and then I was in this group, and I did it, and it was like it's super nice, but I feel like it's just, for me, and this is gonna sound like me being selfish, because I do feel like as a people we have an ego, and our ego is to protect our most and subconscious feelings about everything. So like my best way to do it is just to keep to myself. That's for me. Like it's just
I mean, it's just so
it's just like if I can get myself where I'd like to be, like continue improving, and then the people around me get better, whether they're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, and I can continue to be contagious to them to be better, then we'll be better. But it's like I don't know, if you look at like Bruce Lee, do you know anything about Bruce Lee? Like when he was an actor back in I think he died in 1963 or something like that, but like in those years, he died at 32, 35 years old. At that time, it was when everybody was super racist to Asian cultures. Like Chinese were not allowed to be here. Like if you were Chinese, you were like close to dirt. Like you were horrible. Like you lived in your own place, you didn't do this, you didn't work. Chinese were viewed as ugly people. The culture was ugly. And then like Bruce Lee gets asked an interview on a live talk show host in the U.S. He gets like, so Bruce Lee was born here, moved to China, lived in Hong Kong, then came back here, tried acting, and they ask him like, so Bruce Lee, when people ask you, you're a very westernized Asian, what do you say? Like, are you Asian or are you American? And then he says, he's like, I don't mean to sound philosophical here, but under the skies, we are all but one family. And in essence, he never needed to say, I am this pro or I am this pro, but his actions, like his success, like putting Asian culture into the big screen, introduced everybody to the Asian, and then now all of a sudden you see kung fu movies everywhere. You saw Karate Kid 1, you saw Karate Kid 2, and like, so it's like, just because it's not your one goal doesn't mean you can't have that be accomplished by doing other things. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you
Yeah, because at
think?
first I was like really mad at you, like not mad at you, but I was just, why aren't you doing something? Like, but I get what you're saying. By you doing what you need to do or what you like, that your story is gonna get out there at some point by talking to people in your life. And
like, don't get me wrong, if I hear something like that really makes me mad, I'll be like, oh, hold on, let me talk to you. But it's like you know, it's very that's how I go about things. Like, I'm not gonna go out there and say, you know, I was seeing so many things on social media, like, Trump is not my president, this and that, he's freaking hatred, this and that, we're not rapists, we're not. Okay, guys, like, I get that makes you frustrated, but it's like, now what are we gonna do about it? Like, how are we gonna show him?
but that's what I think I told you yesterday. But I'm like saying, like, okay, fine, but I don't know. It's like it's like both ways. Like, you know how you were saying there are a lot of people born here that don't go to school or do much for their lives when it comes to like their profession and stuff. Why should that goes back to my thing, but why should only people that do stuff that's going to be like very impactful
Go ahead.
like have to be like, okay, valued, like, okay, now you can have something to say about whatever issue, or like, oh, now that you...
No, I'm saying that overall, if you want to have a big say, you have to have people in power that believe it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want the Latino vote to be big, you probably need a Latino congressman. You need a Latino lawyers. You need Latino governors. You need Latino mayors. You need Latino president. That's what is needed, right? In an essence of getting that people involved. I didn't say that the person working at McDonald's a full-time job is not worth it. For all I know, that in their world, in their space, they're being the best they can be, and that's enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, but what I'm saying is internally.
But you also said something about like, why don't they go to school or something like that? Like, you said something.
I said, why don't Hispanics change the value of what success is in life?
But you said something. I can't remember exactly anymore. But I don't know. I can't remember now.
It was something about like instead of
like even right now, like you were like, okay, well, he said we're rapists and like we are like not worth it to be here and like all that, and then you were like, well, yeah, let's change the perspective and whatever, and like do something. But why should we do just something just to be valued here? Like what you said, what if that person is doing the best they can? Because honestly, I don't know. That's the thing with you. Okay, you had an opportunity because like you lived right across from that club or anything, but not everyone has that, and not everyone grows up with parents having the same mentality as your dad. Like, I have a lot of aunts and uncles, or like mainly aunts, that have like the mentality of just work and that's what's gonna get you out of this, and because they're uneducated and they've never had the time to like think past that and saying like, how else can I get my kids through this like obstacle? And I don't know, like I'm trying to it's like hard for me to put everything into words, but basically like not everyone has the same opportunities as like you or someone else. I think you, like, especially that your mom didn't know English, I think you were really lucky that somehow your dad or your mom found out about that club, because not a lot of kids have that, and not a lot of kids have parents that even care. There are a lot of parents that are just worried about feeding their kids and making it through the day, and that's that. Kids taking care of their siblings and not having time to study, or like not developing like the discipline skills that they need or have to have in order to like succeed.
That still sounds like an internal problem, like internal community problem to me.
Well, yeah,
So,
but
like, I think the problem is not I think it then becomes
I
how do
know.
you educate the Hispanic community to believe that?
Yeah, but you're doing that like what white people do. You're grouping, and like you can't, like it's
So,
not
okay,
it's
but-
not black and white. There are a
but,
lot
like-
of individual.
No. I'm grouping because we're talking about a race. If you're talking about people of color, you've automatically already eliminated white people. So we're doing the same thing that they do to us. There's no difference. It's just in our perspective, we're doing it because we're doing it to speak up for people of color. You see what I'm saying? That so we just grouped ourselves in our own subgroup.
But I'm talking about even people, like, this is like the story for a lot of people of color, and it's because there are a lot of more
That's
like
grouping, yeah.
obstacles that they have to go through than somebody that's white. I don't know if you've seen like those videos about like white privilege and stuff, like certain things that people of color have to deal with that not like a white person really needs to deal with, and those are additional obstacles on top of the way that they were born and where they were born, the way that they were raised, and the way that their parents make them see life. And your parents seem like they were like a very positive influence in your life, and they wanted change. And your dad, I don't know how, or like he got like really educated on the topic of like making sure that you guys got everything and did everything that you needed to do. Like my mom didn't know about like you should do sports because then you could get scholarships and this and that. Now she's like more educated because like she's been here longer and she's been able to see the things that maybe I couldn't get. Like I didn't get scholarships and stuff, so they had to pay out of pocket. But now they're more persistent on my like younger siblings and stuff like that. Or like I told you, I didn't go to preschool. I didn't have any type of like education prior to kindergarten, so I went in there like not really knowing English. Not everyone has the same experience as you do. And then on top of that, because we're people of color, like every person of color goes like, I don't know, they have even more obstacles than like a white person.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I feel like
You're making so.
no, this is good. This is good. I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. But I feel like it's so hard to solve a problem when you make it individualized. Like if you individually look at every person, you're like, this person has, okay, let's say, for example, we have subject A, subject B, subject C, and subject D. Subject A has parents that support him, but they don't have money because he's Hispanic. They're all Hispanic. Subject B, he doesn't have a parent. His dad works, and his mom is not there. That's that. Subject C could be any other factor he has. Maybe maybe he's got bad friends at school, and so he slacks off at school, but his parents push him a lot. Subject D, his parents don't care about what he does in school, but he works a full-time job. So like if you look at all that and then you try to go to everybody and solve a problem, like you're never really, it's like a very individual and it's a slow pace. So like, yeah, it is individualistic, and that's the same reason why I don't like talking about it, because I'm very like, I know what I have and I know what I didn't have, but I know what I was given. So I don't like talking about immigration because for me it's different, because I'm not in whoever's shoes whose parents are telling him, hey, you need to get a full-time job because we need to pay the rent. And I'm not in someone else's shoes who's suffering from anxiety and can't focus on school, and his parents don't care about them focusing on school, so they're not going to go out the way to look for him. So I feel like if you take an approach like that, it's just super hard to solve anything because everybody's so different.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's, for me, it's like, when you talk about...
I understand, and like I get why you have to kind of group like everyone together and let them know like how to get on like a path or something like that, but I don't know, it's frustrating not thinking about it. I don't know. I'm just like not thinking about everyone individually, and like I don't know. I just feel like there are so many factors that go into it, and that's why I don't. But that's why I don't like the whole just assumption of or assuming like.
It makes you mad that like.
Yeah, because it's like
it's so easy for when they're not in the other people's shoes.
Yeah, I'm like it's not easy. Stop telling me that.
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely not. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
But so I totally get I feel like I get where you both are coming from, in the sense that like you have to consider at the end of the day, like everyone's situation is different, you know. So what fits for me is not gonna fit for the next person. But then from your perspective, like I can see where grouping, you know, is gonna come, because
I don't mind if we group when it comes to like solutions. But I don't like grouping when it comes to like saying you guys are all like doing it wrong.
Or
Like, you know what I
get better or
mean?
something, yeah.
Which is what I feel like you were doing, which was like insulting. I don't know, I'm like, why are you talking like that here? Like, and it's kind of like, I know this, you don't like it, but it's kind of like, you're Mexican, why aren't you supporting like Mexicans? And I don't know. I know you don't like that, but like,
okay, so like, let's say, in your mind, what does me supporting Mexicans look like?
I don't know.
You see, like, I feel like in order to say that, you should like have an idea of
Well,
what it looks like.
I'm talking about, okay, like,
I think it was what if I'm
like
correct.
being more vocal. Go ahead, like,
Well,
tell me what I'm thinking, because I can't.
I'm wondering if you're talking about something you mentioned yesterday about like, instead of giving the impression of like rapists and
Right.
you know, drug dealers and stuff like that, then we need to kind of bring ourselves up and you know, so that is kind of the white mentality of like pull yourself up by the bootstraps or whatever. But from what Erica
But that's
is saying,
not
like,
how it. Yeah,
it's
you're
not
right.
it's not that easy just because of like the different factors that come into like different people's lives, you know.
Yeah.
But I do see like, from my perspective, I think a lot of people do generally try their best, you know, but people in general are gonna see the negative. So even though like that person is struggling, but they generally are trying, but you know, maybe they lost their job or whatever might have been pushing them back. People like somebody else isn't gonna see them, so they're just gonna see them like maybe they ended up having to sell drugs, and so you know somebody knows about that, so they're just gonna see that aspect, and they're not gonna think about like all the things that might have brought them there.
Yeah.
You know? So just that one small negative becomes this huge thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all you are, you know. So from a larger perspective, I think that's what happens to a lot of communities, like where communities like the Black community is seen as like stereotypes as like one thing, and then Hispanic community is like stereotypes as another thing. I feel like it's not necessarily that majority of the people are like that. I think there
But
are
that's
like a
what
small
he's making
portion.
it like he's making it seem more like that's it. Like when I'm you're right. Like I feel like you group us when it comes to bad stuff.
So what I said is, and
He's like,
I know,
let me
I know.
repeat myself.
No. I know what I said, and I know how it can. I feel like I understand why it can come off like
Yeah.
that. But it's like when it's almost like what I'm trying to say is like he said, like no matter what we do, the bad is always going to be overemphasized. So we have
So you
to.
think you have to be twice as
So
good.
we have to be twice as good. Like,
But why do we need to do that?
We shouldn't.
That's the
Like,
thing. Like
it's
you
not,
with
it's not fair at all.
it's something as simple as like, for instance, the whole thing with like women having braids at work. It's gonna make them less professional or whatever. It's like, why do I need to have straight hair or like to seem professional or seem like I'm in the same type of like cap as like a white woman?
I think it's. I personally think it's like.
Like,
okay,
but
I think it's
why
like,
don't we change that perspective so that women can like wear whatever hair they want? And like, why do I need to fit and or even be better than like a white person?
Because I feel like if you think about like the government and society, like it's honestly a game. Like how many points can you rack up so you fit into society? You don't have to fit into society. That's fine. But then if you don't fit,
It's gonna make it hard for yourself.
exactly. You
That's
can
the
like you
thing.
can be a completely however you want to be. You can think how you want to be. You can dress how you want to be. That's fine. But just know that in the society game, you have to fit in.
Because you can change your behavior,
Yeah.
but I can stop them from judging me because I have an afro or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever the case may be. So we can change it for ourselves, and I can, like, not judge somebody else for that. But then if the rest of the world is not going to do that, it almost, like, defeats, you know,
What you're doing,
my
yeah.
purpose. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So like, I get it. Like, why should I have to wear dress pants to a job if you know whatever?
It's 90 degrees out.
Exactly,
Like, I should be
whatever.
able to wear.
But it's just like
you know.
that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Imagine if like we didn't have those type of like regulations or rules. What would be with us? Like, have you ever? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like so if I read a book called Homo Sapiens, and it talks about like why out of all the sapien species we were the only ones that were able to survive. And it was one of the things was like our intelligence, but our ability to create hierarchy and to accumulate in groups. And like this guy does this guy does this, you're good at this, you do this. And it was our ability to form that community that made us survive till now. And it still is now. Like you have the business owners, you have the higher job, like the owners, and you have the workers, and you have the people under the workers, and like this. And I feel like that's in our own blueprint is like still here, and so it's so hard to change that because that's what's guided us here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess
I'm like trying to solve an issue right now that's like not gonna be
so
solved.
For me, the biggest thing is like I don't talk about like race, and I don't talk about this subject because I do focus a lot on the person, but in my essence is like you have to, once you become like whole here as a spiritual person, then everything kind of falls into place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one thing I was gonna ask, like you both, is how do you view, or like what's the best way you think you can change society? Do you think you can, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. Like, can you change society just from going out there and protesting and, doing that?
I don't think protests work. I don't, and I agree.
Media,
Yeah, I agree with Aldo. I think we need to have more professionals in that like CEO spot or that like manager spot and or governors and stuff. So then like let's say like for going back to like my small example about black women having like an afro or braids, like if a CEO is like able to do like the braids or like the afro, then like other women are able to do that and be viewed the same as like the CEO, like, oh, you're just as smart. It's frustrating when right now the people that are in power
are white men,
are white and majority white men, and and they hire people that look like them, and so I don't know, I just feel like it's annoying.
I think when I said that, my meaning was let's have so many people in those positions where it's no longer a surprise, it's no longer an outlier. Like I feel like I always see it where it's like a Latino student graduates from medical school and is now a top doctor. But if you have hundreds of those, he's no longer special.
That's not a story.
Exactly. That shouldn't be a story. That's what I'm trying to get. It's like it shouldn't be a story that a college Hispanic kid graduated school. Like let's have so many.
Why is that the outlier? That should be the norm.
Exactly. Like, let's have that be a thing.
Yeah.
But like I really think it starts in here, like from the beginning, like knowing who you are, knowing what you want to do, and it could be you could want to be a business owner for whatever. No job is bad. No job is but like it starts like knowing yourself.
I think I just keep going back to like the individual stories that I hear and stuff like that. So yeah,
I think it's hard.
It's hard because I always want to like solve an issue like right off the bat, and it's like such a big topic, and it's like no one's gonna solve it in the next like even 5 years.
Well, I mean, even like this is like a cultural thing, but if you look at it as something as simple as eating, like for example, when as a personal trainer, when you're whatever, let's say you're trying to tell a person like. I had a buddy that made this comment. It was super funny, but it was like super true. So it's like, if you take your dog to the veterinarian and he's overweight, what do you do to get him to lose weight? You just stop feeding him more. You just feed him less, and then he loses weight. And then he was like, now people do the same thing, and it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. If you want to lose weight and we want to drop obesity, then just eat less food, and then. That's a simple solution. Boom. And then people reply with like, well, people have food anxiety. People have this anxiety. People don't like exercising. People have bad body images. And it's like, if you start looking at all these ideas, then nothing is going to get solved.
Yeah, that is true.
Like,
okay, I get
nothing
that.
is going to get solved.
Yeah.
The simple idea is eat less, you lose weight. Cool. But then if you start, well, I don't like eating peanut butter. I don't like drinking water, and I don't like walking. And I also have anxiety when I eat, and I don't like going past. Then where you're not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's come up with like a solution or like something else that works. I don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, just have to,
yeah.
No, and like it's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. But like, I mean, if you look like at the big movements, a lot of them were like it was general. Like Martin Luther King was a general black movement. He wasn't like sitting down and saying, "All right, now tell me your problem. How can I help you?"
But don't you think that was a lot more like that could have really been grouped because he was fighting for certain
Like liberties.
liberties
That's the
that
thing, like-
Black people didn't have as like a whole, and he was fighting for that specifically.
Right, but even then though, you have for example, there's African Americans that have a really supporting family that have different views, and then you have other African Americans who don't have that. But he wasn't like saying, all right, your parents are very supportive, they understand this, your parents aren't supportive, they understand this, your parents work this. Like, he was just like, group, and we move together.
Because I think, like, from a group perspective, a lot of us have the same issue. There are certain issues that are consistent for a large majority of the group. Not everybody, you know, but just like a large part of the group might suffer from whatever issue. So I think if it's like an issue like that, you're able to kind of group everybody so that at least the majority are able to benefit from it, you know. But there's still going to be things that are like on an individual basis. So like maybe on top of you experiencing racism, you just lost your job, you know. But at the time being, everybody's facing racism, so we're going to deal with that issue. And then at another time, I mean, at the end of the day, we can't like find a solution at one time for every single thing.
So for me, when I said that, it was like, all right, everybody can get a college degree. That solves a lot of everything. That solves a lot.
So that'll be like once. So like a lot of people of color don't have a college education. So how do you fix that? You know. So that's something that you can group like people of color together to say that's an issue that we all in general have. Like, you know, and how can we fix that? You know. But then looking at it from an individual level, maybe you don't have a college degree because you just lost your job, or you know. So that's another part of it that.
Okay, I get that.
Maybe like on a smaller subset, you'd have to kind of look at like how could you fix it for this small group or whatever. But it's
Okay.
I feel like talking. This is why I don't like politics and stuff like that. It's just not for me.
It's always an interesting like conversation because I feel like I always learn so much and just you know hearing it from someone else's perspective. That's really amazing.
I'm not like super nice. Like I'm not like super fond of like talking about stuff like that. It's just not in my interest really.
Yeah.
It might be a little egotistic to say that because I'm just sitting.
Because it feels like, oh well, I'm not. Yeah, I'm a DACA student, but I'm not struggling right now, so I'm not going to really. Like you're like I have it figured out. Like let the other people that don't have it figure it out themselves. Like that's what it kind of looks like, and it's like, but I get what you're saying. If it's not like something that you feel comfortable with,
it's like have you been on planes before?
Yeah.
So, well, the first thing they say, it's like, if something happens in crashing and the masks fall down, who do you put the mask on first? Who puts it on first?
Yourself.
Yourself. How can you help someone else if you're not even living? Same thing here. How can you help other people if you don't have it yet figured out?
But I feel like you've gotten so far where you can do like little things.
Take this as a little thing, like you know, just sharing your story.
Yeah.
Like I've done speeches for like scholarships. I've done speeches for donors. I do spring banquets at Oak Brook golfing things. So I've done things before, but it's just for me like I don't go and say, "Okay, guys, I just did this." Now like look at this. It's like I did it, and whoever was there, great, they got impacted. Didn't get impacted, oh well, and then I just move on.
I mean, at the end of the day, like outside of you know having to be in a place of power to create rules and make changes, ultimately a lot of the changes that happen in our society are gonna be
from above,
from an individual.
You know,
it's gonna be you telling me your story and me seeing, oh wow, you know,
right.
that what I was thinking about, like those type of people, like that's really not true, you know. So just making friends and socializing and telling your story, impacting people. I feel like that's like that grassroots mentality. I feel like that's really how a lot of change comes by. A lot of people that don't have certain types of friends, they're the people that have these stereotypes and misconceptions, and
even just having like a mutual respect for a human being goes a long way.
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day about like the KKK leader, was best friends with an African American, and it was like,
Oh, I've heard that story.
and it was like the KKK was like, hey, he's my good friend. Yeah, he's a black man, and I have my belief. He has my beliefs, but we have respect. So I treat him like respect. That's it. If you have that, you've already accomplished so much.
And then that means that you can have discussions and, you know, one day, hopefully, you both can learn something from each other. But it's tough because there's no real solution at the end of the day. But, like, we just have to do, like,
Our best.
what we can, exactly, our best at changing it from our perspective. Like, for me, like, I don't necessarily, like, go out there to advocate for asylum seekers, although I really would love to. But for me, like, it's just how I kind of deal with it for myself. Like, you know, because I don't want to put myself into a situation where I'm uncomfortable, you know, so maybe that's just not for me. But how I can advocate for asylum seekers is maybe, so for example, like, I've worked with, like, an LGBTQ organization to go lobbying in Springfield. So stuff like that is how I feel like I can impact society, because I you know, going on social media and going to protests, like you said, I feel like it doesn't necessarily work like that. You know, it's not necessarily as effective. So for me, like, I just value advocating for, like, groups through legislators or just through, you know, interacting with different people, you know, just changing those
Yeah, I think
impressions
I'm
of
like
changes.
viewing it all as one, but like everyone can really do something.
Yeah, like in a different way, like,
Yeah.
you know, to kind of
You
have
guys
that-
won.
No.
All
We're all
right.
winners.
We're all winners.
So positive. No, that was a good point.
Okay, guys, that wraps up our conversation with Aldo for today. Thank you so much for listening again. It really means a lot to us. Please make sure to review and subscribe to us on all platforms, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps us tremendously. Also, please follow us at Something to Say on all social media platforms. Thanks for joining. Bye.